be behind you.
Okay, so well, first of all, good evening. And welcome to Rothenburg, welcome to the Night Watchman tour. Well, I'd like to take you a bit around. I'd like to show you now some of our most important and most beautiful buildings. And of course, we'd like to talk a bit about our history as well. And I think in the beginning of our tour, we have to talk about a Night Watchman. You probably should know whom you're with tonight. And well, first of all, I have to tell you, Night Watchman, it was a very bad and it was a very low profession in the Middle Ages. And in those days, nobody would have joined a Night Watchman by his free will. So as you can see, our situation today improved a lot. Even in this weather, you're coming to see me. And you're even paying money to do that. That was crazy for people in the old days. Also, the working hours of us Night Watchmen are much better than they used to be. In the old days, the Night Watchman, he had to be on the street for the whole night, from sunset in the evening till sunrise in the morning. And you can imagine that was very long and cold in the winters. Well, tonight we will do a bit more than an hour, and that's it already. Well, Night Watchman, it was a bad profession because he had to walk on the streets at night time, at a time when all honest people were at home. Well, people in the Middle Ages, they were extremely afraid of the darkness. They sometimes even got up at 12 midnight again, just to pray 1 hour during the ghost hour, and then they went to bed again. And you can imagine somebody who had to be on the streets in those hours. He was really bad. But of course, the Night Watchman was a very important person as well, because he was responsible for the security at night time. And as you can imagine, his most important duty was to look out for fires. Well, a fire was the biggest fear for a city in those days. It was wooden houses in those days, and they were covered with straw, so it all burned immediately. And it's a fact. Most houses in the Middle Ages were what we call timber frame constructions, as you can see it on the other side of the street in the top floor. And, well, it was just to save expensive stones. Stones in the Middle Ages were unbelievably expensive because there was no machine to cut them out of a quarry, no dynamite to blow them out either. They had to be taken out by hand, and therefore just the richest persons could afford a solid stone house, and that was the normal way of building houses in the Middle Ages. And actually we still have a word in the German language that we use for very rich people. And very rich people in German are called stone rich. Well, because just the wealthiest guys could afford a stone house. But a Night Watchman, he was not just looking out for fires, he was responsible for everything going on the street at night time as well. And as you can probably imagine, everybody who was on the streets in those hours was suspicious in the Middle Ages. Well, of course, we remember honest people were at home. And therefore, everybody, if he was on the street at night time, he always had to carry a lantern. Not just the Night Watchman, everybody else as well. And well, of course, it was not that he could see things. It was just that he could be seen by the Night Watchman. And well, when I look around, I can see no lanterns. But it's getting dark soon, and there is at least one colleague here in town tonight. So, well, I ask you to stay with me. Otherwise, I can't guarantee for your security. And I don't want to see you in jail tomorrow. And I definitely don't want to tell them it was my crew violating rules. And well, if the Night Watchman saw somebody without a lantern, for this case he was armed with the weapon I have with me tonight. And it was called a halberd. And as you can see, the halberd, not just one weapon. We have a combination out of three different weapons. We have a spear, an axe, and we have the little hook at the side. And I don't think we have to talk about a spear and the axe. You all can imagine how they were used. Or do you want to see it?
No.
But a really interesting thing at a halberd was this little hook at the side, because it made a halberd the perfect weapon against the knight on his horse. You could hook the knight at his weakest position between the breast and the back protection, where both parts of his armory were just connected with leather stripes, and you could pull him down from his horse. But well, of course, also used in the knees of a pedestrian, a very interesting weapon. And once the knight was laying on the ground, you could always try to use the hook and the long arm as a kind of a can opener to open the armory of the knight, and then do the rest with the spear. So you can see that a halberd was a pretty well-designed weapon. And if the Night Watchman recognized he couldn't handle a situation on his own anymore, then he could always blow his horn to call his colleagues for assistance. Well, in the Middle Ages, there were always 6 Night Watchmen on duty every night. Tonight we are very likely just 2. But please behave. Well, of course, I have the cell phone numbers of the other 4, and I can always call them in case that's necessary. Okay, and now let's move inside. I'd like to have a quick look with you at a city map to give you an introduction into our history on this map.